Hey guys, welcome back to Wise Guys. I'm Tiffany Harelik, and I have my friend, my colleague, and my special guest today, Julie of Julie May Astrology. So, Julie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it just brings so much new life, new excitement, new vitality. I had somebody email me the other day and they said, "Did you get a new YouTube channel? You haven't put much content out." And I said, "No, I've been going through it." So I know if I've been going through it, I'm not the only one. And I thought this was a perfect time to kind of get back into the mix, back to school, ready for fall, ready for equinox. And I asked Julie if she would come help me and talk about September because, man, it has been a really intense entry into the fall right season. So September is a 9 month and a 9 year, and so the intensity was going to be there. We knew that it was going to be building up. We knew that this is a year of endings. We knew this was a year of closure. We knew this was a year of integration. And so to me, this is kind of that penultimate point where it's the 9-9 in numerology, the 9 month, the 9 year. There's already a built-in sense of urgency and mystery with what's going on with the eclipses. So you guys stick around. We're going to go into a little deeper dive with the September eclipses, and we're just going to discuss what we're seeing going on in the field. And to start out, right, like September, I feel like is broken into two uh, succinct energies. There's everything, let's see, what was our special date? Before September 12th. So September 12th through 15th, there's this like little pink cloud, pink bubble window. But before and after, there's a lot of intensity going on. As we start out in September, the sun just squared Uranus. Mercury is going to move into, where is it moving into? Virgo, and it's going to square Uranus. And it stirred some stuff up. Uranus, we know, is very volatile, very spasmodic, very Einstein, a lot of brilliant aha moments. And I have experienced the roller coaster of that square in my own life. I have had, Uranus and Gemini, it brings up childhood stuff. It stirs the pot from elementary school. It stirs the pot from neighborhood type stuff. For me, gosh, that Sun and now Mercury squaring Uranus this first week of September, on top of the eclipse energy, I have had some chaos. I have had some accidents. I slammed my thumb in the door. I had a wasp sting that I had a big old reaction to. I've had just some uh, abnormal accidents, I would say. I ran over a squirrel. It was awful. So, there's a little bit of more chaos as we enter into September. And so with that, we can be more mindful. With that, I increased my yoga practice. With that, I increased my meditation practice. And so, Julie, how's life? You just drove through a major weather event. That's a Uranus square. So will you tell us a little bit about that?
It was. I spent some time. I'm in Arizona. That's where I live, but I went back what I call home, where I'm from in Kansas, and just to get out of a little break from the heat. But I decided something just hit me. I was going to come back today, actually, and it's a 2-day drive, but for some reason last week I decided, I need to go back earlier. I need to go back earlier, and I just felt this overwhelming need to be back in my space. And so it's the first time I've driven with just my dog, and it's a very long drive. So that presents some challenges in itself. And of course, she, um, got into something she shouldn't have on that trip. She got sick, so it kind of sped up the trip a little more than I had intended. But in the end, it was good because I made it home in time for the big haboob that was all over the national news and the monsoon rains. I was home and tucked in and taking care of my baby girl. Um, so it was a chaotic trip. It's the first time I've done it alone like that. But at least I got home and safe, and we were safe from the storm.
I love it. And yeah, the weather events have been so intense this year,
Yes.
which we were expecting with Uranus and Gemini. So to have Sun and Mercury squared, I'm glad you were safe. I'm glad you got out of the storm. I think it's just I don't know, it's expected, but gosh, are we gonna have 7 years of it with that placement? Or what are we gonna do? What innovations are gonna happen? Where are we going to advance? What technologies will occur? Will we create different windows? Will we create different structures for our homes to be safe? Yeah, what kind of shifts are we going to experience with that Uranus and Gemini? So as we start out on the first, Saturn's going to retrograde, or Saturn is retrograde, and it's going to pop back into Pisces for the last time for a while, right? For about 30 years. So as we consider Saturn, I don't know, would you give us maybe your take on Saturn? What kind of energy is just Saturn in general? And then what maybe is Saturn retrograde? We can talk through some ideas of what we might expect.
Well, Saturn is that very rigid, structured planet that likes to do things in a very orderly way. But you know, it's moving back into Pisces in a retrograde. And I think, like you said, it's going to stay there until November. So I think that softens it. It we still have to be accountable with Saturn, but I think it'll take on a more maybe more spiritual practice, maybe be more consistent about that kind of thing, your yoga or your meditation or prayer, journaling, things like that.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Just going back into that sacred space, going back into the womb, being more reflective, being more internal. There's a little book that I read that I love, and I don't remember who wrote it now, but she refers to the retrogrades as kind of opposite energy. And so another idea to share is that a retrograde Saturn can act like a mini Jupiter that can kind of expand some things. So going into Pisces there, right? That's more dream time, more subconscious, with maybe whatever Uranus is stirring up. It might be occurring during dream time. You might be more aware of some sensitivities. I know, like in my friend group, I have some people that are doing food testing for sensitivities right now. But it's not just physical, right? It's spiritual sensitivities too. Julie pulled a quote out from Abraham Lincoln, and I thought it was so fitting. Do you want to share that one?
Yeah, I thought it was fitting too for that Saturn going back into Pisces. It's discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we just have to, especially in this September with some things going on, practice patience, you know, sit with things, um, really see where you want to go.
See, yeah, I love it. I am teaching yoga again, which I haven't done in a long time. And so that is a very Saturn retrograde into Pisces. It's like you're going to go back and teach the sutras. You're going to go back and help people breathe, really just slow down. And yeah, so there's kind of a return to some part of your spiritual practice. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Mercury moving into Virgo. So Mercury wants to be in Virgo. Mercury's at home in Virgo. Mercury feels there's a sense of, again, that sense of order and um, let's see, protocols and procedures. The bad side of that is there can be a little bit of analysis paralysis and being too hard on yourself. When I left the studio this morning, the studio owner gave me a compliment, and I was like, yeah. And she said, Tiffany, do you ever just receive a compliment? And I was like, I mean, if I agree with the compliment, I receive it. And she said, just stop and just feel it, like rub it in. And I thought that's an interesting practice to embody, right? Virgo being an earth sign, to really embody receiving something positive that is given to us. So if you are being too hard on yourself, if you are taking life too seriously, that might be a sign of an intensity going on with Mercury and Virgo. But otherwise, it can be an awesome time to do your fall gardens, do some fall prep work, get some exterior stuff cleaned up. I don't know. What do you think about Mercury and Virgo?
Well, first of all, I have to comment on the not receiving
Yeah.
compliments thing. That's a very Scorpio thing. And as you
Yeah.
know, I'm a Scorpio rising. So I know that very well. It's very hard for me to do the same thing. And I've had people tell me that too. Just say Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I think it's a great time to like, okay, so here it's after monsoon season. It'll be like it's almost like a fall cleaning,
Yeah.
declutter, go through, clean, make everything nice and shiny and sparkling and organized and where you can feel good and safe and in your space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I and clean your fridge,
Yeah, yes.
Clean your pantry, clean your food areas, right? Like,
Right.
yeah. Um, okay. We talked a little bit about Mercury squaring Uranus. That'll lift on September 3rd. Right after that, Mars, which is in Libra, is going to square Jupiter in Cancer. So Mars in Libra, that's kind of that this or that energy. It's like I can see it from two sides. And I thought it was interesting, even, I don't know if he did this on purpose or if he meant to do it, but Sam Reynolds, who's an astrologer in Santa Fe area, I saw he made a post the other day about what's the difference between a disagreement, a debate, and an argument, right? And I thought that's a very Mars and Libra question to propose. My answer was, what's a disagreement? Well, that's when we can agree to disagree, when there's solution, there's no pressure, there's like, I just see it differently. I'm not trying to change your mind, you're not trying to change my mind. There's peace in the airwaves. The second one was debate, and that's where I feel like neither party is changing their mind, but it's like an intellectual spar in a way.
Right.
And then the third one was, what was the third one? Ah, uh, an argument, right?
Arguments, yes,
Right,
argument.
which is where neither people are, there is no solution. We're not looking to, I'm trying to control, manipulate, defend, explain, be right, right? And so those are kind of the energies that, like a way to understand Mars and Libra. It's very uncomfortable, right? Mars is focused, driven, has a plan, has a path, has energy, wants to go forward, and Libra is kind of this or that, and the scales are doing this. So when it's already uncomfortable and it's squaring kind of a big energy in the sky, Jupiter and Cancer, what Julie wrote was too much too fast. And I feel like that's really accurate. Mars squaring Jupiter, that can be kind of like I'm pulling the arrow back, but I don't know where to loose it. I have tension, I have energy, I want to go forward, I have frustration, but I don't know which direction to go. Jupiter, right? Like Mars is like the athlete, the warrior, stripped out like muscular, and he opens the door, and then there's Jupiter, the philosopher, the Cheshire Cat, the preacher, the one who knows multiple languages, and they're locking horns, and an air and a water sign. So there might be some hurt feelings too. So I don't know, but I would just say loose lips sink ships. How can you be diplomatic? Sometimes the best thing to do is say nothing. Um, that
Yeah, that's
doesn't,
a good one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you have something to add, maybe?
No, I think you said it. I mean, yeah, just think about when you're responding, it's like, am I really acting um, with in alignment the way I should go, or am I just reacting?
Yeah.
That's yeah, Mars and Libra.
Mars and Libra, right? Yeah, I'm not immune from it. I'm not. And then the very next day, Uranus retrogrades. And so always when an outer planet retrogrades, I don't even need the astrology calendar anymore. I get laid out. I get so tired. So I just, and I have to laugh at myself because I booked speaking engagements at our local rodeo, which is a big rodeo. We have 100,000 people that come through starting on September 5th, and I'm bringing bees, right? And
Ooh,
I'm bringing live bees, and we're doing a honey tasting. So my big moment is September 6th, but it's like the 5th through the 12th that I'm up there every day with livestock doing stuff. And so knowing that that's already kind of an intense moment, I'm probably gonna get more rest, do absolutely nothing else only get myself there and get myself back. My friend Nikki says sometimes showing up is the most you can do. You know, I wanted to have all these recipe cards, I wanted to have handouts, I wanted to have different things, but me showing up with bees and samples of honey, that's the most I'm going to be able to do. I can't even get anything else done printed ahead of time. So, knowing astrology doesn't make us immune from overbooking ourselves anyways. But my point is, I think a lot of people in astrology land are going to be are going to be like talking about the eclipse and saying like, oh, it's the eclipse energy. Well, yeah, but there's a lot compounding that too. So anything you want to share about Uranus retrograde, and then we can talk about that first eclipse.
Um, I I just think, there's Uranus. It's going to shake things up. It's in Gemini. You just kind of have to, it's going to maybe cause you to overthink things or think maybe you've done something wrong. You just doing things, excuse me, doing things the same way you think, oh no, I need to change it. But really, I think you just, like you said, you have to take it slow
Mhm.
and kind of roll with the punches.
That's right. Okay, I'm going to present.
Excellent.
Uh, This is from a presentation I did with Celeste Brooks and Sarah El Harar, and this is talking about predictions for 2025. And so the eclipses, right, in September really shape the fall. And so this first one is in Pisces. So if you guys have something in 15 degrees of Pisces, of course, that is you're gonna have more of a story. There's more of a narrative going on. Pisces disintegrates, Pisces dissolves, Pisces blends, Pisces takes away. I remember the last time we had an eclipse in Pisces because I was in Austin coming out to the country, and everywhere I looked, there was a Pisces eclipse moment. It was like my friend's water pipes broke, the pool had to close for a reason, the gas station I stopped at had a boil water notice. So if you were traveling during this time, I would be really extra careful around waterways. There were bridges that collapsed. If you're on a cruise ship, I would know what the safety plans are. If you're doing anything with boats, if you need to have some type of water damage insurance, this would be a time to do that. If you need to have the plumber out in advance and check the pipes and do things that, help with the water health of your home, if you need to just simply change the filter of your water system or start a water filtration system, those could be some ideas. Pisces also rules feet. So maybe you're having a moment where you treat yourself to some reflexology or to some a foot massage or something like that. Pisces rules the oceans, right? And so blessing our oceans, like Saturn retrograde in Pisces, like doing something sweet. The work of Dr. Emoto, right? He would go out to the oceans where he was, or the water, lakes and streams and rivers wherever he was speaking, and he would pray over the water because he's the one that did all of the work to show us how the crystallization of water, how when you speak love over it, what the crystals look like versus when you're hateful over it and what it looks like. So just allowing for some healing to occur. Pisces is tears. Um, so this moon family story is right here. It started back in March of 2024. And, if you think back to what was going on in your life in March of 2024, this is a more is revealed moment. You might have had some data around December, right? To me, this is part of my beekeeping story. But I love looking at these. Like you and I both recently, Julie, did a study on the moon and going back in time and weaving some threads through. So I think this is an awesome practice, just to look at these dates, go back into your journal or your Google Calendar, see what was going on. The metonic cycle is coming up as well. So when we're talking about eclipses, astrologers measure them in two different ways. One of the ways that we measure it is through the metonic cycle dates. And so you can see also maybe look back to September of 2006 and see what was going on. Yeah, see what was going on. So this particular eclipse in Pisces, right? Pisces is ruled by both Jupiter and Neptune. I can't get our little faces out of the way. Um, So I get interested, there we go, in what is Jupiter and Neptune doing in the chart of the eclipse. So this is just a Tiffany process, take it or leave it. What is Jupiter doing? Jupiter represents the law. It represents religion, religious groups as well. It's in a positive position to the moon, which represents the people. It's in a positive position to the sun, which represents the rulers and leadership and presidents. But it's in a square to Mars, the military. So
Mm.
will there be something going on where it's like the people uh have some sort of revolt or strike against, or it was the military? What I'm thinking of is I was watching a show about oh gosh, I can't think of her name, but she did a special on militias and the people on the border that just that in my state in Texas where they form personal militias, and in some areas the border patrol relies on those citizen militias, right? And so I can kind of see the astrology in the media of what I'm watching, which is a representation of what's happening in my state. Neptune, right? You think about Neptune as the great yoga teacher in the sky, but also the confusing one, the covert narcissist that looks so sweet on the outside, and how could anybody possibly hate them? But deep down, they're up to no good, and they may not be aware of it. It might be subconscious. Um, but you can see Neptune conjunct Saturn, of course, and sextile Uranus. I just feel like that's an additionally volatile combination where we might see these riots. We might see these turning events. There's a lot of other things to look at in the eclipse chart. I just handpicked those out because that's what's ruling, right? The sign Pisces that it's in. Where will we see more news? So if we're looking at the interesting degrees, that's where I went next. So I looked at the 15 degrees of Pisces. I looked at the other mutable signs, Gemini, Sagittarius, and I looked at like what other like where which countries have interesting points, right? And so you can see, I think that we'll get some news with Israel. I think that yeah, the United States having some aggression, some adrenaline, some unpredictable extremes going on. That could have been the weather event that we've already seen with the Haboob. Um, and these are some other areas that I think are going to be directly affected. And we may not even know until after the fact. It might be looking back that that's the time that the Detroit water system was radically healed and changed forever, right? Or it could have been the moment when the Detroit water system, the people, the moon, had enough and said, we refuse the situation that's going on with our water system. Um, but I thought that would be kind of an interesting thing to weave into the September forecast. So I appreciate you guys letting me share it. That's the next eclipse, so I'll stop my share for now and then just ask Julie, do you have any eclipse advice for us or feedback or anything hitting your chart that you want to share about?
Let's see. That's on the 7th on my chart. Da, 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 da. I'm getting it up here so I can see.
Yeah, no problem. And
Okay.
mhm,
E well, Pisces is in my the moon will be in my fourth house, um around, my home.
mhm.
It makes sense to me because it is monsoon season here. But what I really think about it is, it's like if you feel yourself, I don't know, getting caught in a riptide, they say don't fight it, just, float with
Yeah,
it. Just go
yeah,
with the flow and, see how things turn out for you. But don't fight it, let everything take its natural course, and I think everything will be fine. For me, yeah, I'm going to stick close to home. Hopefully, I don't have any of those water pipes breaking.
right. Yes.
Um, yeah, because it's all around home and family. Neptune, it'll be fifth house, just barely into the fifth house. So
So you'll be prepared, right? And when
yes,
anything happens in the fourth, first, seventh, or 10th house, the angles, right? So if you're like Julie and it's happening in your fourth or first, seventh, or 10th house, it affects all of those, is what I have seen in my practice. And so I feel like it's not just um, the floodwaters at home, it's also the floodwaters at work or with partnership or with my identity, with myself. In Pisces, like Saturn in Pisces is kind of rebirth feeling to me. This is like a new identity for you in a way, um, a, n-
yes.
a new season of life for you. And you've recently launched your website and your astrology, and you're in a different work path. And so I can see a lot of that being good for you, right? Nothing to be scared of, but yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, because my son is in Virgo right now. I mean, the sun will be in Virgo at the same time, in my 10th house.
Yeah.
Um, right. Well, it's conjunct Mercury, so things like this going on that
Yeah. Yeah.
I see good things with that aspect of it too.
Amazing. And it's important to look at the good in astrology too. So Julie and I were talking just before we hit record about like, okay, where's the positive time of the month? And usually you can point towards the new moon as an anchor. Well, this one happens to be an eclipse. So we found a little pink cloud pocket, and I thought I would just ask you to talk about that, Julie, like this September 12th through 15th is where we might have a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more flow, and just what are you seeing? What are you feeling or intuiting for us?
Well, on the 12th,
Mhm.
it's the sun is in Virgo and it's sextile Jupiter in Cancer and Mercury sextiles Jupiter. So it's like an optimistic time, a forward moving time,
Mhm.
um, it with recognition and opportunity. I just think they're all going to work really well together. And, with the sun in Virgo, it's of course those Virgo themes and um, making sure everything's in order. And you've got Jupiter bound, pumping it up in Cancer and, your home.
Mhm.
It's just a time where I think you can have big ideas with Mercury. Jupiter's going to expand them. It'll be a productive time with the sun and Virgo. I just see a lot of really good things happening there. And I have a quote that I found from Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's like, once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. So, this is your time. You've got Mercury there, your sun's there, it's all supporting you with Jupiter to expand. And so just decide what you want, and you're going to get the help that you need. Think of what you want to grow and let
Yes.
everybody know.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote we used this morning too, and it's from Nikolai Bachman, The Path of the Yoga Sutras. And so it just mirrors what you just said. And he says, beginnings like endings can be difficult or exciting. Starting something new implies change, a step toward an eventual goal. Atta is the first word in the Yoga Sutras and is considered an auspicious way to begin. Whenever we make an important decision, often the universe will energetically support us. So I love that we've have a little window in here. And I love that you said like Jupiter's blowing it up too. What I'm thinking of, like, how does that mimic my life? Because I think astrology should be practical. For me, I have honey and I have lip balm that I make with my bees. And I met with a store owner last night that really wants to put my products in a wholesale category that is much, much bigger than I was dreaming. And so sometimes Jupiter can help you with the dream behind the dream or the vision behind the vision, or seeing something from another way. Now, I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to be the kind of beekeeper that overpromises something that I can't produce. And that's why it's important to work with a network of beekeepers. That's why it's important to work with people that share your values. So, in case you need to borrow some lip balm or in case you need to borrow some beeswax, you know that you're still in the flow of a natural cycle that is sustainable, that is regenerative, that you can get behind. So Jupiter can blow things up too big. What if I can't supply the thing that she's creating for me? You know? So there's some balance, like there's some balance going on, but at least it feels good. It feels like recognition. It feels like somebody said, hey, your brand is cute. Let's tweak it here. Let's get this packaging tightened up a little bit. So I can, and she wants to carry it in some of the holiday markets
Oh,
in
wow.
places. Right, like that I couldn't buy a booth at these places and make like, but for somebody else to have an entire home goods thing, Jupiter and Cancer, to take
Yes.
my little thing and do it in a market that it wouldn't otherwise get seen in, feels really supportive. Feels like something is growing. Okay, and then tell us about, what do you think about the Mercury Cazimi?
Oh, well, it's a cazimi, the heart of the sun. So it's got to have a feel good.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's just, I think it'll be a time where you might just get some brilliant insights and you'll just know how to speak that clearly.
Hmm.
And maybe, you'll be the front person to say what
Mm,
needs to be said. Um, it's if you have meaningful conversations, it's a time to do that.
mhm.
Uh, it's a good time, set your intentions and make things happen.
Write some stuff out. Somebody said, "Hey, have you journaled about that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to journal about it." But it might give you some revelations if you'll sit down and journal that day. You might see things from a different perspective. So pen to paper. Pay attention to who calls. Pay attention to who texts. Pay attention to the messages, right, of the universe. Mercury's the messenger. We could think about Mercury as our vehicles, right, as well. So transportation, in Virgo, maybe it's an excellent day to get your oil changed or to do something to tidy up your car. Just take it through the car wash and take care of the good things that we have. Maybe it's a day that you upgrade your phone or your cell service or your storage. Maybe it's simple and practical, or maybe it's like deeply profound. Maybe you just open a book that you've read 100 times and that one sentence just speaks to you, hits you in the chest, right? Um, okay, anything else positive going on around that little window?
Well, let's see. The 15th Venus sextiles Mars.
Okay.
So, Venus and Mars. There's Venus, her charming self, and Mars, the admire the motivated guy. There could be some chemistry there for a romantic relationship or collaborating with someone creatively.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I really see that. I feel like that's happening for me. But that'd be a good day you know, to mix up that way. Brainstorm with somebody that on a project that you're working on and make some things happen.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, teamwork.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, I like that. Basically it's teamwork, yeah. And it's also kind of I don't know, like you said, there's energy, there's flow, there's beauty, there's I think that's why we were looking at the 12th through the 15th as a positive time. It's good for social gatherings, good for date nights, good for making things happen, just being more in flow. So now this is like usually you want to do like the happy sandwich where there's good news, good news, and September is the opposite. September's kind of the sad sandwich where it's like, okay, but there's some happy news in the middle, and then okay. So on the back side of that little bubble, we've got Mars opposing Chiron, which is retrograde, Mercury opposing Saturn, which is retrograde, and so things get a little bit more melancholy. And so you want to reach out to your loved ones that may, if anybody's struggling or having mental health issues, this is when you want to reach out. Bring the chicken and dumplings over. Make sure your neighbors are feeling loved. Make sure that you're not going down. If you're having some depression or some anxiousness, to reach out to your community to have those things in check. To have your notes like there's certainly days where I don't feel like I want to get out of bed, and there's certainly people I call for those days, and don't wallow in it. Don't stay there too long. Try to have a new perspective, and just kind of sometimes we're just going through the motions. And so I feel with the malefics involved there, malefics being Mars and Saturn, that there can be a little bit more a mood change, you know, an energy change. Mercury is going to move into Libra, so that organization moment where Mercury has been in Virgo, it that window closes. Mercury moves into Libra, and on the 18th, right? And it'll be there for another 3-week period. So Mercury in Libra is chattier. This might be a time when you have more conversations, when you're talking through things before you really come to a conclusion. The Mercury then makes a couple of different aspects as it moves into Libra. And to me, that's just busy. It's just Mercury's the social butterfly, you know, and just be careful to not overbook yourself. We're still in a 9-month and a 9-year. We're trying to integrate. We need sleep and water and rest in order to integrate. Sometimes the melancholy that we feel is actually not ours at all, but the weight of the world, and we're not discerning that properly, right? And so I feel like there's moments as the month goes on to realize like I'm just carrying. Am I watching too much news? What am I pouring into my head and my heart? And do I need to change that up? Did I like? I love a good documentary or a cold case or something, you know, very scorpionic. But I'm very aware of when I watch too much of it, and it can have a depressing effect. So, what are you putting into your body, mind before you go to bed, and just be aware that that might be contributing to the mood. Um, let's see, as we go on, Venus is going to square Uranus, the sun's going to oppose Saturn. What do you think about that on the 20th? What should we watch out for?
You know, the shakeup.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, you've got Venus, or, you know, with love and finances, personal freedom, you know, your comforts, and
Mhm.
Uranus. So just, you know, let's see what happens, what's going to shake up. Or maybe it doesn't have to be a negative, you know, maybe you find a breakthrough, you know, something around your home gets better instead of having
Yeah.
a leaky pipe for, um, like we talked about before. But um, you know, with the sun opposing Saturn in retrograde, you mentioned that, you know, that Saturn is kind of then softened, but um, you know, you still might have feelings where you just don't feel like you can do what you want to do, or you feel limited in some way. Maybe you're bumping up against something, but you know, it's just a time, then just take a pause, take a breath, and, you know, figure it out, let it roll. I I also found a quote here that I really liked. I had found some good quotes this time.
You did, yeah.
But it was like, when you're in a dark place, which you might feel with all that tension going on, you sometimes tend to think you've been buried, but perhaps you've been planted. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
I
That's
love that.
beautiful.
So, you know, there's some tension, but it's also an opportunity for personal growth,
Hmm.
an opportunity to sit down and journal and, you know, see what comes out of that, and maybe another direction you need to take or something.
Right. And you know, when you're talking, I just hear like cycle breaker is another thing that's coming up. You think about like the sun representing our health, our vitality, our self, our identity, going through a challenge to a retrograde Saturn. And so it could be that you're coming up against authority figures, or the way it was in your family or your culture, or good girls do this, or there might be some old idea about how things are supposed to go, that you are evolving from, or that you are, you know, growing through and changing things for all of the future generations in your lineage too. So yeah, interesting stuff. Venus square Uranus, I used to tell people, watch out, that's when the kids go to the dentist and they come home and it's like time for braces, and it's this unexpected expense. And I thought that was so funny and clever until my daughter came home one day and it was like time for braces. And there's this huge unexpected expense that was for aesthetics, right? For a beautiful smile. And those are some of the surprises that can come into play, right? So they can be positive surprises. Braces aren't a bad thing. They can certainly be unexpected. So, kind of to close out the month, we've got two or three more things to talk about. We've got this partial solar eclipse in Virgo on the 21st. So it's a new moon solar eclipse. So it's the beginning of a 2.5 year cycle. And it's in 29 degrees of Virgo, 29 being the anaretic degree of frustration, death, decay, endings, tension, a buildup feeling. So I bet we're going to have a bit of a release going on. And what are we releasing? Virgo stuff, our day-to-day expectations, some of us, our jobs are changing. Some of us, our routines are changing. Um, the Sabian symbol with this particular eclipse is having an urgent task to complete, the 29th degree. A person doesn't look to any distractions. And so I guess knowing that in advance, you could look at the whole month of September and maybe you have one mantra that you're like, this is my focus. I'm just going to stay focused on this. And I know that my mind is going to pull me forward and backward, and that I know that my mind is going to get curious about money and work and day-to-day things and Virgo-oriented stuff, but I don't have to know everything. And so I'm just going to stay focused on one thing, right? The enjoying the mystery of life, right? The humans search for meaning and all of that. What is the one thing that you're going to stay focused on that can bring up some kind of stability inside when there's so much chaos going on outside? Anything that you're thinking through with this particular eclipse that you want to share?
Um, well, as you said, it's wrapping up in Virgo and eclipse. You want to it's a release, but I there's also a supportive trine with Pluto that's
Hmm.
going on to that eclipse and Mercury and Uranus. So some big power hitters there. But it might give you some power in your voice and releasing whatever Virgo things you need to release and put to bed.
Hmm.
I think that's a good aspect of the eclipse. Some of the
Yeah,
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 some of
yeah.
the
I like
aspects are good aspects. Okay.
Right. And then if we look at the chart of the eclipse, which I won't reshare my screen again, but Virgo, right, ruled by Mercury. Mercury's trine Uranus, and Uranus is in 6 degrees of Libra. So I do feel like there can be sudden peace, like that's like the Berlin Wall falling down. Like it wasn't exactly sudden peace, but there's a representation of sudden peace, a representation of sudden change. Of this, there's no more, right? Like this can, whatever that edge of completion that's coming up. It's like that rebirth cycle. So don't give up. Just keep going. Um, Tell us, you were talking about Mars moving into Scorpio. Tell us what you think about that.
Well, I'm a Scorpio, so that's where Mars belongs, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's comfortable there, but it's a passionate, powerful planet, but it's also strategic. And the sun also enters Libra that day. It's equinox, right, on the
Yep.
22nd. So, um, Scorpio transformation, but Mars with that courageous action. You know, there's there's always the good and the bad sides. You have to watch out for, trying to be controlling, maybe. But it's a good time to really put some oomph into things that you want to work on,
Hmm.
tackle those goals or um, Scorpio, very emotional, work through some emotional things that you've been dealing with, journal. Um, Reclaim your power. I mean, it's a powerful time. So it doesn't have to be bad because it's equinox. You
Yeah,
just need to find that balance and um, create what you need. Um, it's a time you got to restore some equilibrium, I think, with
I
the
like
sun
that.
entering Libra and balancing things out. So it might start out with a big punch with that Mars entering Scorpio, but I think there will be balance there. You just have to look for it and make things happen.
Love it. Yeah, that's good advice coming from a Scorpio. It reminds me of alchemy. It reminds me of turning lead into gold. It reminds me of digging something up under the earth and letting it see the light of day. Libra, Sun and Libra reminds me of homeostasis. It reminds me of health, right? Health is disease is the absence of health. So when things are off, the Sun and Libra, it's like getting things back in balance. And so maybe there's some power checks, like you were talking about, like the power struggles, or a wise use of power, or a wise being a good steward, right, of ourselves, of our health, of our life, of the information that we share. Yeah. Okay, so I think the final gong crash here in September is that as Mars is in Scorpio, it's then going to square Pluto, which is retrograde in Aquarius. Scorpio and Aquarius are fixed signs, and that's like another, locking of horns in a way. And so it's like, do you want to fight? Do you want to debate? Are we having an argument, a debate, or a disagreement? That might be excellent
Ah,
advice from our friend Sam all month long. So Mars and Pluto are Scorpio's planets, and they're it's like brothers fighting, brothers at war. It's like um, just getting into that locked horn position. Like there, it can feel like there's no way out. It can feel like there's no solution. It can feel like you want to win, it can feel like it brings out this competitive nature in you. And right, like that's another time where we can really step back and I don't know, like try to remember in my lineage, it's we have a saying that God is my employer. So if God is my employer, what kind of work am I doing? And am I doing it out of service, or am I trying to win? Am I trying to be seen? Am I trying to what is my heart of service in this situation? So yeah, there can be a big intensity as September closes. So we didn't talk about this one, but the sun is opposing Neptune at the same time in the sky. And so there can be some trouble with sex, drugs, rock and roll. There can be some issues with like medications, right? We've had several unfortunate events in our high schools throughout the United States where kids have been doing what I would consider normal rebellious activities, and yet whatever they're smoking is laced with something else, and they have complete psychotic breaks and are never the same. You know, so to be really careful with what might just be a cigarette or might just be a something else, like Neptune changes things. It distorts, it deludes, right? And opposing the sun, right? Your health, your vitality, your sense of who you are. So there might be somebody going through a period of time where they really are confused about who they are, where they're going, or what their whole life is for. What's the point of it? So if we can go back to that idea, that mantra that you just have one thing that you come back to through periods of melancholy and change, uh, then I think, we'll find that the intensity will lift, right? This eclipse in Pisces that we're starting out the month with, how can we be the tide that lifts all boats? How can we, you know, use the intensity, use the energy, use the buildup in a way that pushes through the soil, right, and changes things. So I'm looking forward to this fall. I know that we had a lot of, right, like interesting, I guess, intense aspects to share with you guys. But I guess in closing on my side, I'm looking forward to the cooler weather. I'm looking forward to unplugging and going more internal. I'm looking forward to that time integrating. So it's not a slow month for me. It's a busy month for me. Knowing this, I'm going to take extra special care of myself and not put myself in situations that I know are going to just stir the pot for me, right? So, what are you thinking, Julie? How are you feeling about September now that we made it through?
I feel good about September. I think it's a time that I can get a lot of things done. I will probably pull back and just kind of hibernate a little bit to get some of those things done, but I feel like that in the end, things are going to line up.
Mhm.
It's hard stuff, but for me, Scorpio hard stuff is just it's a part of life, and I always know that I'm going to come out better in the end if I work through it spiritually and with grace and take things as they come. So I actually think it's going to end up being a good month.
Yep. Don't give up. One foot in front of the wood, one foot in front of the other. Chop wood,
Yes.
carry water. Keep going. Look for the pink cloud little moment mid-month. Be aware that we are in a crock pot of change, right? What we're putting in the beginning of September is not going to look the same when we take it out of the crock pot at the end of September. And yeah, let's just try to be kind and sweet to each other and supportive and step back when you don't have capacity to have some of those interactions with other people. Right? And just, yeah, I think going through this month with a lot of awareness, maybe you pick one word to anchor yourself into, or one spiritual practice to go back to. That's really what I'm seeing. October will definitely feel different. We'll be in a one energy. We'll be in a fresh start energy. We'll be in a new phase. We're not going to be the same at the end of September as we were in the 1st of September. We're going to look back to the 1st of September and be like, wow, that was a catalytic month. This was a month of catalytic change. And so, yeah, I hope you guys have a great month. I hope this has been useful. Thank you, Julie, for hanging out with me and kind of getting back into the swing of fall forecasting. I've been stuck in the 2026 prediction land. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining me today. And tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, where they can find you, anything else you want to share with the community.
Sure. Well, Tiffany is my mentor. She's the one who taught me, and was there at a time where I needed a direction, and so she is the one I got certified through with her certification course, which I highly recommend. I use a lot of your tools in my practice, like your Wise Guys calendar. But I do have a website. It's juliemayastrology.com, and it's JULIEMAE in case, because it's a different spelling for that. So juliemayastrology.com. It's new, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on the podcast. I do have a background in training and marketing that kind of supports everything that I'm doing, but uh, what I really like is at this time in my life that I can focus on the spiritual and the service aspects, and this is what was shown to me as my path to do that. So thank you again for having me here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You guys, please go have a reading with Julie, especially while she's just kind of launching her website. The testimonials that people gave us when you were going through your certification, you know, you astrology is just so literal. You can just point something out and it changes somebody's perspective and gives them some hope and some light on the path forward. And so I absolutely love the lens that you bring to astrology. I love the voice that you bring, and I just am so glad that you could hang out today and talk about September. So, guys, until next time, hopefully we'll have Julie back on and we can get another take of October skies, November skies as times change. So, hang in there. Let us know if we can support you. And until next time, namaste.
Namaste.